Danielle Jokinen.
Hi, Connor.
What's up, Danielle?
You know so
How
much.
are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm in the UP of Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
sitting here talking to you, having some good tea.
How's it feel to be in the UP?
Um, Fantastic. It's where I grew up. I love the lake, Superior, family, trees, nature, deer, and I like to say, and a lot of kind people.
Yeah. Amazing community. Like, unprecedented community. Yeah. Super grateful for being here. What brought you here?
So, time of the world right now is
Because you grew up here.
I grew up
You
here.
left years ago.
I left out, you know what? I left 2005 or 2006. I don't really
Okay.
remember what year. It's kind of funny.
Right.
But I've been living in Minneapolis for about 13 years, so figure out the math.
So you've been there quite a while.
Yes,
Like most of your adult life.
totally. I moved away when I was 21 years old.
Right.
Opened a yoga studio now over 7 years in Minneapolis. And did that. And also created a program, a yacht program that I can do almost anywhere as well.
So remotely teach yoga.
Remotely teach yoga.
Right. Through the YAD program. Which you created.
Yep.
Super cool. So you've been doing that for the last 13 years in Minneapolis?
Yeah, I actually moved to Duluth to start. It was a good transition from the UP to go to Duluth first
Right.
and then travel to Minneapolis. And I worked at some gyms. I worked at Lifetime, personal trainer, massage therapist, group fitness instructor, and fell in love with yoga. I started yoga when I was 12, but I fell in love with yoga in 2010 again. In a way, my life fell apart. I was like, I need some yoga. And did teacher trainings and then went to my first week-long boot camp with Baron Baptiste and declared I want to open a yoga studio. Within like 8 months after that, opened a yoga studio. I was, how old? Math. Can we do some math? 29 years oldish.
Okay.
Psh. Very young, but also believed in my dream and the possibility that it could bring for so many more people as well. I wanted to do more with my life, and I wanted people to have a space to go through their own transformation, their own healing, their own place to find themselves, but also be in like intention of love, of growth, of community, of just values that really align to the good for the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've been there ever since. And
Bringing people peace.
yes,
The best way you know how.
yes.
It's really cool. And so that's what you've been doing. You now have a new studio.
Yeah, I actually moved my studio from uptown to northeast Minneapolis just, oh man, end of February, beginning of March.
Okay. So that was recent.
Yes.
What happened
So
when you were opening it? Was it like just a bunch of craziness coming together and magic?
it was great. I ended up getting a new business partner who was amazing and on the same like vision and dreams for the studio and bringing it to more people as possible. And so like great. I believe we can go places together. We can't go alone. So I was like, let's do this. Got a beautiful space in an old YMCA building. We got a build out. In 2 weeks we were open. Had like a beautiful grand opening, full class, just community people coming together with food and whatnot. And then 2 weeks we shut down because of COVID.
Yep. So that just happened.
That just happened. Still happening.
Right.
We are not open yet. Goal is to open June 10th, which is a few days from now. But yeah,
Are you ready to open?
you
Are
know,
you stoked?
I'm excited to get back together and gather with people.
Yep.
It's so interesting to see the contrast now. It's just like, whoa, what do you mean we can gather again? So to have to go through that experience of you might get sick or the fear, right? Fear just gets planted,
Oh, yeah.
and how real that is. And the what is really missing is what people thrive and heal and grow from is human connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to get back together and also doing it in this space where people feel safe, and not having to go back into like fear or protecting. I want people to gather in a space of feeling heard and seen and safe.
Right.
So I'm super excited. There is some precautions that still need to be in place. Like we can only open up to 25% capacity. So one day at a time.
Right. So that's currently what's going on. What did you leave when you left Minneapolis?
Yeah. So I was pretty much at home with my daughter Evelyn, who's 3 years old now. She's she's more in the high category risk of getting COVID. If she does, she would have to be probably hospitalized because she has a compromised respiratory system.
Sure.
So I was pretty much just hunkered down at home with her, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And then the incident happened with George Floyd with the cop, and I was only like 3 miles away from that site. And then the riots and the looting and the fires just started exploding in the city of Minneapolis, which every right for what happened, but more so like I needed to get to a safe place for my daughter. The grocery stores were closing down, everything was closing down, and the energy in the city was just really fearful and scary. And then the gas station by my house was on fire, so I just needed to get my daughter to a safe space.
Right.
And so I came to the UP of Michigan.
Right. It's so serious what's going on right now in the bigger cities.
It's real.
So serious. And I think some people might not really feel the intensity of that. I know me, like me sitting here in Nagani in my apartment complex, like in Upper Michigan, it's going to take some time for it to reach up here. It's like a shockwave that hits in these large cities, and the fear and the tension builds like a bomb going off. And the longer the radius is, the less effects that we really feel. And so I can't say that I've seen too much different, except that down at the post office in Marquette, there's some people holding some signs up. And that's the extent
Right.
that we've seen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you were there for how many days in like a war zone?
Right. Totally. Well, George Floyd's death was that Monday. And that day I actually drove by the intersection, not knowing what happened. And I drove by and I'm like, what happened here?
You could tell.
Yes.
Like
There's
immediately.
Immediately. There's already people like gathering. There was a buzz happening. And then I was able to find out on the news like what happened. Because I was just doing my daily stuff and was driving home. And once I watched the video, and I'll snap so I don't cry about it, but just like drop down to the floor in the sense of like, how can this happen? And it happened, and it brought me to tears. It brought me in shock. It brought me to the floor in the sense I didn't know how to stand up. So it's just like it's the real.
So this was before the violence even erupted.
Before the violence even erupted, it was like, how?
It was like, holy shit.
What do I do?
Right.
How do I? First of all, it's just like digesting it, processing it, and then knowing like how do I take the next right action, and having a yoga studio and a platform with that, and knowing to have to take an action like to be heard, and like this is not okay. So I was able to like put some stuff on my yoga studio, like newsletter and platform, just
Sure.
to like, know like not sugarcoat anything in the sense of like this is what's happening in our city and what can we do to support, to change, to cause
That's cool.
the change we want to have in the
Right.
world.
To immediately respond with a positive action.
So did that on Wednesday, but also in the knowing that there's so much more that I don't know. I mean, and I'm wanting to get educated and also be a stand for everybody. but specifically for like the unjust actions that were happening, and that, like I got to witness because it's in Minneapolis. And what can I say or what can I do? And it's just really what I came through that, because I grappled with like, what do I say? What do I do? What's the right thing? I want to make sure it's in
Right.
line with, the studio, but also it's just what's in line with humanity and love and
Yeah.
peace and kindness for all humans everywhere.
Right.
So that's the steps we started taking, and then the riots happened after, like the protest and the looting and the fires and the continued looting, fires, and then the National Guard got to come in and was able.
This is going to get interesting too. But
Yeah.
what's also interesting, right, is that relationship people have with expressing themselves honestly. Like honestly expressing themselves about, okay, something big has happened in society. There's some kind of rift forming. Where do I stand? Where do I go? What do I say? Right? People have a really hard time with the fear of how others might react to that, based on who they are and all these ideas. Right? And that's not tripping you up. You don't feel like you're experienced a whole lot being a yoga studio owner and like promoting the best in people.
I definitely thought about it, and what do I say? And I wanted to use my platform and not like be just like in denial about what's happening. It's just like I want to speak. I definitely thought about it, and coming from a place of just what is right, again, for humanity. And so, and also have a yoga studio. It takes risk to even run a business, and I'm not just here to play it safe in
Right.
the world. To take risks and speak up when things need to be spoken
Absolutely.
to. But then also I'm in this space of I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
That
I
there's
get
like
that.
bigger things at play in the
Yeah.
world.
And it's now there's, two sides. How can you find a middle ground? How can you find a peaceful way to look at things, really looking at it from both sides, right? And express that, right?
Right, and that's why I decided to speak to just what practices I know can help people through challenges in their life.
Right.
The state of Minneapolis is, struggling and crying and in pain and in sadness, but the people in there are also beautiful people who are protesting and standing up. There's also like so much light going on at the same time. So it's a really beautiful thing to see and witness. And so that's why I know like what I can do for my studio in Minneapolis is just be a space for people to continue to gather and process
Right.
whatever they're processing through this, because everyone individually is having their own experience based on this common event that everyone saw, gathering together, expressing it together, but also they're there because something's pulling them individually there to do whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So I know what I can do is just have a space for people
Yeah.
to gather,
All
to
people.
heal. Yes.
Right.
I mean that's what we've been from the beginning, welcoming everybody. So that's just what I'm continuing to stand in and for, like getting back to the why, is welcoming obviously everybody and being for their own growth, their own healing, their own transformation, their own remembering of what matters most to them.
Right. Through empathy. Right. It's through empathy that we can accept all people, right, regardless of what they think or believe or what side they stand on. Right. That's like the middle ground. Is that space where we recognize ourselves for who we truly are.
Yep. Listen from a place to understand, too. Yeah.
Right. So things start like getting loud, I would imagine. How many days did you say you were there? I don't think we got that far.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 6.
6 days.
And I was trying to do a workshop still.
On like an online thing?
An online thing.
Yeah.
Yep. I was still trying to do a workshop, and my studio was closed down. Like the building shut down and boarded up for all the riots and whatnot. So it's like, great. Oh, now what? So I was going to stay home, but staying home sometimes is hard because my daughter wants, if she knows I'm home, she wants to play. So I went in the basement, was able to do the first day. And though it's just like, I told everyone, because there were people from all over from like Florida to Georgia taking this workshop because it was online. And I'm like, you know what? We need to postpone this workshop because 2 people in it too were in uptown Minneapolis. And I'm like, we just need to,
Yeah,
number one,
sure.
we need to be like literally be safe. And I knew it was bad. And I said this to another one of my teachers that I knew it was bad when I found a huge bag of like raisins. And I was like, great, we have food for at least 2 days.
At the grocery store?
No, in my cupboard.
Oh,
In my cupboard at home when I
right.
was thinking of like if we need to like if I need to go somewhere, it's like great, I can bring this bag of raisins.
Right.
So it made me realize that
That's a different mindset.
different mindset.
That's a total shift.
Like, yep. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this isn't safe. Like I could survive off a bag of raisins, sure, for 2 days. But like I need to get my daughter somewhere where she is safe. And then if we need to have any kind of medical support, we can get there too. So, yeah.
But was it like mostly during the night?
It was mainly during the night. A lot of riots. There was protesting. It was happening in uptown specifically, and then went to like Minneapolis, and it went all to the police precincts. They wanted to set the police stations on fire, which they got 2 of them, and then burnt down a bank and a post office and a lot of small businesses.
Like
An apartment
miles
complex. An apartment complex.
around you?
Yeah.
Like within like square miles?
Yeah, in blocks, within blocks.
Within blocks. That is unimaginable, I think, for a lot of people.
Totally.
It is for me.
Yeah, it is. It felt like it's like a bad movie, real life happening. You walk down the street wondering if like your fear of your life.
You walked down the street during that time?
I went to the grocery store because I literally had 5 diapers and I needed to get diapers for my daughter, and everyone at the grocery store was on edge, and somebody was like drilling to like put up some kind of board on their building, and like when this person started drilling, everyone like stopped and freaked out, like in the sense of, oh my gosh, what's happening, and realized like, oh, that's just somebody drilling into the wall.
Whoa.
So it was like the tension was
Yeah.
high, and that was just in the middle of the day. And I was like, I had to go get diapers. And then also being there and feeling that, I'm like, yeah, we need to get out of here. So, yeah. So first went to Wisconsin to see my grandma, and just to see if things settled down, and then just decided that what was best for Evelyn was, and me, just to be in a place where also like we can get rest and get good food and be around loved ones.
Ain't no better place for that than the UP.
Right. And to tell you the truth too, it pulled at my heartstrings to leave Minneapolis, my city. Like I wanted to be there to support, and then it came down to like, I number one again, taking care of my daughter, and then myself, and then doing what I can from afar to support the city.
It's interesting that you feel that way. So I'm sure like a lot of the people also feel that way about the city right now. And probably a lot of the cities
Yeah.
in the U.S., not just Minneapolis, too. They're feeling like, do I stay? Do I go? I love this place. This is my home. Like, that's a huge dilemma.
Yeah.
Do you think what's going on right now in these cities is somewhat productive? Do you think it's getting anything done? Because you're saying there's a lot of energy being put into standing up and, people standing up in their truth on both sides.
Totally. I think people, number one, it probably is creating a shift. It's creating awareness. They're making a stand for whatever they believe in. And part of it is if people do what they feel is right for them, and if they can feel at peace at night because of it, it can help. But then it also goes back to what's the intention about really any kind of stand. What is underneath all of it? it's a really big question, you know, and to me, it just shows the state of the world that we are over, like, all in. Like, there is a lot of people want to be heard, and there is a lot of broken systems, I believe, out there too, that have a lot of power over people. And is it right? We could say like these systems have worked up to this point,
Yeah.
and sometimes they work until they don't work, and but it takes sometimes work to change them, and then
Right.
who wants to change them? Sometimes people don't want to also change them who have been running that system for so long.
Yeah.
So it takes work to change it, and after a while, maybe if there's enough people saying we will be the change to change this, whatever, fill in the blank, the justice system, any kind of system, really,
Yeah.
their systems are in place that are needed. But when things happen, and it's sad too, it shows like some things need to be like super awful and painful to actually change something. And I think what, like, this is an overarching thing. It's like, just think about yourself.
Yeah.
Something
Experience this.
right, something super bad has to happen until you like change it. And my hope for everybody in all things, they don't have to get so bad to finally like wake up
Yeah.
and make a change.
Yeah.
But sometimes it does get to that. And what we can do now is make sure, like, hey, let's change this system so this doesn't have to happen again until we finally change. Like, how long is it going to take to change something? So we all have those behaviors in us too.
Right. Exactly. On an individual level. Right? Like, we are basically just a smaller version of what's happening on a macro level scale, what happens in every one of our lives. You know, we have these waves, right? The ups and downs, and what you're talking about is an awakening, right? Coming to terms with when both sides are heard, right? And there's a resolution or a revolution that happens, and this happens on individual level as well, where you have these times where you have a revolution in your life, you feel it, and that's what's going on a large scale right now, right? And so it's very interesting to take that bird's eye view and say, okay, I see where these people are coming from. I see where these people are coming from. Am I gonna jump on a side, or am I just gonna say, I'm gonna stand here, bird's eye view, and do my best to keep riding these waves?
Totally.
These waves of injustice and volatility and hatred, and then on the other apex, love and harmony and peace and joy, community, right? So we're just riding the waves, dude.
It's a big wave. It's a hurricane. It's a tornado.
Definitely. It's a
storm.
precipice. Maybe this is the apex, perhaps,
Maybe.
but perhaps we're just starting to climb.
We might.
Perhaps we're just starting to start climbing out that hill, right?
Yeah.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah. It's definitely a shift, a paradigm shift, and an awakening. That's why it's powerful to step back, to observe, you know, and then you also hear the people out there who say, like, silence is also part of the problem.
Interesting.
Yes, right? And to me, it's just like that's another pointing the finger at someone's not doing something right based on whatever you think, you know?
Yeah.
So there's so much. This is multi-layered, and the biggest thing is like we don't know what we don't know, and we also don't know what we don't know that we don't know.
You got me with that in teacher training, and I still can't wrap my head
Still
around
can't
it.
wrap good.
It
It's good,
didn't. It
Kyle.
didn't really hit home with me, or like I can't feel that.
Part of this is like any situation that is happening, and you think you really know, like you know something, and you're going to act a certain way from that knowing. And what if that thing you know that caused a certain action that you took gets turned on its head and is not true? But it caused you to act a certain way because this thing happened, and maybe we don't know actually
Oh my gosh.
everything about that thing.
Yes. These are called illusions, right?
Totally.
These are illusions that people have about themselves and illusions that they have about the world, right? And a lot of them are sneaky, and we don't see them lying around.
We don't. And sometimes there's things that others want us to see or hear that we end up believing at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time too.
Yep, that happens constantly throughout your life.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make sure we're very careful about mitigating those things that we hear and say with other people or listen to or absorb into our consciousness and say, is this piece serving me? Is this doing me any good anymore? Or is this just bullshit that isn't even true that I just made up about myself or the world? And we just, you ever pick roots? You ever pick weeds in the garden? You know what happens if you just pluck them off at the
They
at the
stay.
grass level? Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta grab it hard, pinch it with your fingers, and just like pull those roots all the way out of there. And that's the only way it works. That's how those weeds don't come back anymore.
Yeah, you got to get to the root cause. What is actually happening?
Yep. Yep. And it's different, right? But we have to be willing to listen. Where are we going with that?
There's more so that you don't know that we don't know. Then we also don't know that we don't know. 'Cause
Oh, okay. So I
remember, there's a
understand.
time that you
You
didn't know
don't know
something.
that you don't know. That's like the illusions stacked on top of one another. I get it.
And also consider that you don't know there's stuff that you don't even know that you don't know.
So that makes more sense to me now that we talked about it.
Good. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
So like I'm saying, there's people are acting a certain way because of this one thing that happened. Yes, awful, horrible. Though our actions that we take, no matter what, I always speak to how can we come from a place of response versus automatic reaction.
Right.
Are we just reacting? Because then also when so many more people react to a certain way, it's easy to clam on to them and like,
It builds.
right.
It builds. These are creating karmic ripples that are building, right? Both ways. Right?
Yep. And which one are we latching on to? Do we even know sometimes? Sometimes do people know? I don't know. I don't know. And that's why I know for me, I can only continue to do like the work, the looking, the listening, the pausing for myself, and then to support others to do the same for themselves.
It's important that you say that first. Right? It's important that you say, I got to actually do this for myself before I say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Imagine if we all did that in a time like this.
Right.
Imagine what would happen.
Think things would settle down a lot faster.
Immediately. Immediately.
Well,
Right?
what were we even fighting about before? What was the problem?
So that's where we're going.
That's where we're going.
That's where we're going. We're going in that direction.
Yeah.
It's really, it's a lot. Right?
People, and the biggest thing, what I come down to realize too, people want to be seen, people want to be heard, and whatever level that is.
Definitely. So, what are you doing for yoga? What have you been working on lately?
Myself, oh man.
Yeah, like what are your practices?
Oh, I do yoga and yod.
Okay. Yeah, because it's interesting, like if people were to hear this, right, and be like, yeah, I kind of want to start looking at myself a little better too. Start pulling some of those roots and start really seeing the world for what's going on, seeing the reality, the truth, right? What do you do?
Obviously, yeah, yoga, yod, meditate, breathe, connect to nature, and that's why I'm grateful to be here, to also connect to, call it source, God, oneness, divine, just connect to
The
something
universe,
bigger than me.
the ultimate.
Yeah, there's something
The
bigger than
infinite,
me
yeah.
at play. So how can I continue to connect to that and let my fears or ego quiet down? So that's what I do. I mean, the sense too of, I feel like I'm in this space, and it's interesting to say because I was talking to somebody else yesterday about this, that I'm in this space. Call it of a transformation, call it of a shift. I'm not sure because it's present now, and I feel like I'm in the middle of like a caterpillar. How do you say caterpillar goes into a cocoon before it becomes a butterfly?
Yep.
So I feel like I'm in that cocoon space of really integrating. And because I personally, the last 3 years, have been through a lot of pain, but also been through a lot of beauty at the same time too. but been doing a lot of my own healing,
Mm-hmm.
my own personal healing from stuff that happened to me when I was very young. So I feel like now I've been really able to let a lot of that stuff go. So I'm not living out those past beliefs, those past traumas
Right.
in my life moving forward anymore. So what I do, obviously, yeah, is yoga, is meditation, is inquiry work in the sense of reflecting on like who am I and also who am I not. So just
Yep.
asking big questions and like being patient for the answer and knowing like really aligning up to myself so that when I know the next right action is, it's like a pulled from my heart, a pulled from my embodiment. It's just a
Right.
confident yes.
Right. So really honest journaling.
Yeah, really looking like totally like just
Honest
being
journaling.
humble and real and authentic, and
That's
it's
inquiry.
ugly, it's
Right.
messy, it's beautiful, it's all the things.
Right.
Having the hard conversations, you know.
Right. So you've been doing this, you feel very strongly for the last 3 years to overcome a situation and blossom now. Hey, how long you been feeling that way?
You know, I think it's ebbed and flowed over the last year, I want to say. Specifically the last since what, September, October? So this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Really just feeling the sense of just listening to the body and not trying to run from anything, just really feeling, because through the feeling is also, to me, I know I've experienced transformation.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling of whatever fear, anxiety, doubt, worry, because it can also rob me, I believe, from joy, of love, of
Yeah.
the peace.
In very subtle ways too.
Yeah.
Very
So,
subtle.
yeah, I feel like this last year and just being patient and calm and like with my yoga studio, that one point I was like, I don't know, like I really won't, I know what it stands for. I know what it's here for. Cause I was at a space of like, I'm, I want it to stay open. I want to still operate it if it's meant to be, if it's like aligned up to
Yep.
its highest good.
Right. So you're giving it over.
I gave it up.
You're giving it over.
Yep.
It's the
100%.
healthiest way to do it. Right.
It doesn't define me. It doesn't make me who I am, and it's bigger than me, and I want it be for other people and
Yep.
the community and whatnot. And that's when I end up getting a business partner, and that's when I ended up finding this new space in
Yep.
Northeast. So I was
You
like,
say, "Thy will be done," and
so it is.
bingo.
Yeah,
Almost like real time.
totally. So I feel like the work of it has been happening, but then like through personal stuff, and then also with like now the COVID and the riots and the death of George Floyd and the knowings and the unknowings and the not knowings about all of that. And my mind has been blown open, really, the last 2 weeks, the last week. So I'm just in this space of just trust, a lot of trust,
It's really
and
good.
being present in the now to really know what right action to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's a good place to be. Space of trust.
and gratitude for everything up to this point.
Right.
Did that answer your question about?
So it sounds like you're unfolding at the perfect time, right? Like coming out of the cocoon at the perfect time
Yeah.
because guess what, Danielle? From what I've seen, the world needs you.
Hi, thanks, my
The
friend.
the world needs to hear what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is it's always true.
Yeah, true.
It's always true.
I hear you, friend. The cool thing about it is, and I could say I've felt like this before, so like I can share from my own experience that I feel like at one point I was a caterpillar, then I went to cocoon, then I became a butterfly, and somehow I became a caterpillar again. And now I'm like back in the cocoon here to this new butterfly, and it's just like,
Yeah,
but that's the beauty of it.
right. That happens daily,
Yeah.
right? That's the essence of die daily, right? Give yourself over daily, right? To a new beginning, a new life, reborn, right? Every moment,
Every moment. It's a new moment.
right? Every few days, every few years, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're on track.
Yeah.
So what's going on is actually good, Danielle? Is that what you're saying?
You know, You know, Connor, I say that everything we go through is here to help us, and everything that is here to help us in the sense of we are on the track, we are on the right path and the track, and yes, it's just being able to feel the pain and feel the struggles when they are actually happening.
Yep.
Because it's part of it that what causes it's like pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. So painful things are going to happen. It just depends on how long are you going to allow yourself to suffer through it.
Right. So it's like these things need to happen.
It's the contrast. It is the beauty of life, the pain, to cause the transformation, to cause shifting.
So you're saying it's important to acknowledge it,
Yeah, to
but
feel it.
not become attached to it,
Correct.
right? Because the other way is ignorance.
Yeah.
To ignore it. Ignorance is to not
Just denial.
be aware, right? To choose ignorance.
And it could be a choice, and I also believe that it could be an unconscious choice.
Absolutely.
Some people don't want to look, don't want to feel it, don't want to see, not know how to. It's a more
Subconscious,
not how to.
right? It's below the surface of the conscious.
They just don't know how.
There is access to it, right? Which is through these practices that you're talking about.
Yeah.
The yoga, the meditation, the yad, the nature, right?
Trust, journaling. I mean, yeah. That's what it's like, oh, when I was home, it's just like this, it was awful and painful, and I cried, and I even called on my teacher, Baron, and I was just like, because we were going through a 40 days through all of this. And he's like, what did you
Right.
get access to? I'm like, I got access to so much. And like, now my city is burning down. And how to show up as a leader during this
Gosh.
time.
Oh my gosh. Show up as a leader. There's a lot to that. There's a lot to showing up as a leader, right? A good leader. What a honorable place in the community, right?
Totally.
A good leader shows up with values, right? And they value people, period,
Right.
right? So you're doing it right now, Danielle. It's pretty freaking cool.
Thanks, Connor.
What?
Yeah, I mean, and then it's like, what is a leader? And it's so funny because I talked to Baron about it in the sense of just like showing up for, like the word you said, values, and speaking up and having a conversation, having our voice be heard, and getting back to the why of like, why are we talking? Why are we sharing? Why are we continuing to move forward through all of this, through really anything? What keeps you moving forward?
What brings you joy right now?
My daughter, nature, good food, music, like good music. Really anything that I believe is being like brought into life for healing, for peace, for love, like
Yeah.
whatever that is. Music, yoga, people, gatherings, food, restaurants. You know, just like
Yeah.
whatever is a source of healing for more people. That's what brings me joy. Good conversations.
Totally. Are you finding more of that lately?
You know, it's a really good question. Yes, though, because that's what I feel like I call out for. So it's like I really been putting my attention on things that raise the vibration, raise frequency, raise awareness,
Truth.
truth, love,
Right?
compassion.
Bring people into peace.
So it's like when that's the I'm looking for, that's what shows up. That's what I want to, like, where you put your attention, energy grows. And like, I feel like I, for a long time, haven't had not so much time for, but kind of, not time for like just negativity or blaming others or talking poorly of.
Sure.
To me, there's just really no time for it. And
Right.
so That's what I want to continue to cultivate, look for, and bring forward for people.
Right.
So,
So it sounds like you're working on cultivating your energy,
yeah.
channeling it, right, into really productive, purposeful things right now. And that's just overwhelmingly over the broad scope solution, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like raising the vitality of our essence, of our heart, of our breath, of our, like, that's what I'm like focusing on is what helps us rise our vitality, our life force, really.
Prana.
It starts with self, right? Breath, exactly. How to raise that for self, number one. And then it's just like it gets pulled towards you, towards me. You'll see it. It gets present more of like what is vital and what is not.
Right. When you look at it. Meditation. Sounds like that's the word.
Totally. I mean, absolutely meditation, man. Everyone should meditate. Typically, I would say something like that. Oh, like you all need to meditate. But though it's like,
There's a reason you said it.
yeah, I see it because it is. It's readily available for you anywhere all the time, and it heals minds. It heals hearts. It can heal yourself, and I believe it can heal communities. I believe that. So, meditation, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially during times like tough, to call them quote unquote tough times, because it becomes relative after a while of what is tough time. Everyone, it's defined by everyone else in their own individual what is tough, right? But specifically through times that you feel like you shouldn't meditate, or because what do they say? If you can't meditate for 10 minutes, you should meditate for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever they are, we're still talking about trying to figure out who they are. But yeah, meditation, my friends.
It's a good metaphor. It's a good analogy, right? Because if we're really anxious about what we're doing, or we have any kind of stress about ulterior things that aren't serving us, it will be brought up immediately in that meditation,
Yeah,
right?
it will.
And
If
then
you
on the other side of that,
is
the truth,
truth, freedom,
right?
peace. Totally. Well, meditation is readily available, and it's common. I hear it. People say it's hard. Sure, it is, and it's not, because we make it hard. It's more so not wanting to look, not wanting to feel, not wanting to say like really get to the root of the weed and like pull it out. It's just like I just want to like snip the top off, but we're like, well, that's still there,
Or maybe spray Roundup on it,
right? That doesn't work
right?
either.
Mix chemicals.
Yeah.
These will work.
Yeah, that. Yep. Just adds another problem. All the chemicals on top. So yeah, meditation, my friends. It's the answer.
So good. So good.
Yeah, because I can tell you what, even through this time of like when I would sit and meditate, what came up all the time was how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? And more so, sure, it was about the situation, but it was more so what was just going on with me. Like I think that is my own story that it's always there anyways, not even based on what's happening out there. Because so it actually brought up something that was always present in me because I always want to help, which is a good, but also it's like your gifts also can also be your kryptonite at the same time if they're not balanced, if not in the word harmonize or maybe harmony, if they're not also contained in a way. Just like a fire with like putting like a saying have a bonfire, if you to put something around it, like rocks or something, whatever, contain it, it can get out of control. Right? So just like your gifts have a gift, but if they're also not, they can become your kryptonite. So like here's me wanting to help, can also it robs me from helping me at the same time too. So
Yep.
yeah, that's what I got access to.
Definitely.
Yeah. So really helping me at this time was leaving Minneapolis. So even full circle back to that. And then what could rob me from even enjoying the UP was feeling bad about not being in Minneapolis.
Right.
So it's like the cycles in our stories can keep us stuck and in suffering,
Right.
even if, right, I'm not in it anymore. So, kind of full circle. It's the stories we create in our own head.
Definitely.
Even though real stuff is happening, it's also what is the also other narrative that we're putting on it? What is the also other narrative that other people are putting on top of it?
The fire gets out of control.
Yeah. And we don't even know then how to contain it anymore. If we're also listening to so many other people's narrative or warming ourselves up by everyone else's fire.
Right? Definitely. So you're talking too about the difference between work and whatever else, right? So it's like, what is the work that I can do, right? And does it really align with everything else? Right? So if you're trying to help others and it gets out of balance towards helping others and you're not helping yourself, are you actually more effective at doing that work that
Less.
you say is helping others?
Is that
Are
real?
you actually more effective?
No, less
No,
effective.
correct. Less effective. So if you spend all your time helping other people, you're going to be less effective at helping other people. Right.
Yep.
That's a huge realization to have during these times.
Yep. That's why I'm in a cocoon.
Right? I'm not working this life away.
Yep.
Because what is the work? What is the work? Is it the job? Is it hopefully we can make it the same thing.
Right.
Hopefully, right? We can come to that point where what we do is actually what we'd be doing anyways.
Yep.
There's not two sides to the coin.
Yep.
It's the same coin.
It is the same. Same.
Right.
I'm with you. That's why I'm calling it like yoga life, like it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we'll experience that to a higher degree because of this.
I know I will based on just the last 3 months. It has made me be more contained, which also like was a gift too. Even though something looks like it's bad, I definitely know it was also a gift.
Yeah. We all have that. Right, in our own lives. Right? And it's happening right now on a huge level.
And instead of looking at as things as happening to us, it's like how can, and then what I've shifted and continue and it's happening for us, for me. I consider this is happening for me. This is for my highest good. This is for my purpose. This is happening for me versus it's not happening to me. So
Right. And you're saying this coming from a town that you've lived in for 13 years that's getting burned down and destroyed by people looting and riots and plague that could drastically affect your life.
Yep.
Yep. Good
Yep.
work, Danielle.
Hey, thanks, Connor.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. I believe that. So I trust it. I trust. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the world needs you now more than ever. Imagine that.
Yep.
It's true. It's true about everybody.
It is. Everyone
true
needs
about
each other.
everybody.
We all need each
Like
other.
right now.
Totally. Everyone is supposed to be, to me, lining up to their highest potential.
Sure. We're getting there. One way or another.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Absolutely. I believe that too.
Good stuff, Danielle. What do you think?
In teacher training, I say complete for now. What I think is not as powerful as what I feel and believe. So, what I believe is we all can come from a place of responding when we line up to truth, to love, to humanity, looking for the good in each other. And when we all can come from that place, that can truly end all pain. So, and what I know in my head, and also what I've seen, is it starts with me. So,
Right.
I know it starts with me to continue to be an example, to share from my own experience of what I know has helped me. So I do know, like, there's things I do know and there's other things I don't know, which is a really powerful thing, but it can also be really scary at the same time.
So on the path to
Truth,
freeing
suffering.
yourself from suffering. Yeah. We're in it together.
Totally. Yes. And what I believe is we go places together. We can't go alone. And having connections with people that can pull things out of each other, I think, is a beautiful thing. And I am a stand for also that as well. Like finding people, communities that also pull each other up to their greatness.
Right. Right. Raising.
The consciousness, the vibration, the frequency, the vitality together. So,
By tapping into the source.
source, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
By getting really intimate and really understanding the source of it all. Right. Once we understand the source of the suffering, much more effectively mitigate it. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think we're getting to the source.
I think so too.
I think we're talking about it.
We might be. I
Right.
think so.
That same source.
I agree.
Right on. Danielle, it's so good to see you. Seriously.
Good to be seen.
I
Good
feel
to see
like
you.
you came to my life at a time where I needed you the most. Right? And that was for my first yoga teacher training, 200 hours in Nagani, Michigan. So I'm so glad that you were there then and you're here now. It's really a light in my life. Right? So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. I acknowledge you, and you're also a bright light and needed by so many other humans as well. So I see that, and I acknowledge you, and I thank you.
Danielle. So good. Seriously. Till next time, guys.
Till next time.
Ride the waves, dude.